So I think first of all, like I want to just like break that down for people. Like, don't be afraid to really start to explore yourself, to just try new things. But
Yeah.
like when you're starting to learn about fashion, don't read a GQ and try to do every single trend that you see that's on there. Like, first of all, don't ever buy Balenciaga shoes. Those things are trash. They look so stupid. Don't buy those. But what I mean is like, don't try all these trends at once. Like, pick one thing that you think is kind of cool or that resonates with you.
Welcome back to the Scorpion S podcast. I'm really excited today, as I always am, but I've got a good friend of mine here, Josh Kercher. He's a fashion designer here out of Chicago, built his brands into a celebrity, exciting, huge, big name kind of company that you want to follow. So, Josh, thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it, man. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah. Before we get into kind of like the origin story of where you were and how you got to this fame status, let's talk about how we first met. I think it was at a Scorpion Nest cigar pairing, if I'm not mistaken.
For sure. I think our mutual friend Ren had invited me to that at E1, and which I just think was such a fun event. I mean, part of what I do in my world is just be really intentional and tell stories, and I want to know why a thing is the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you created there was such a fun introduction to you, because I kind of saw in you that same intention. You kind of bring that same intention about wanting to tell a great story, wanting for people to like really understand what it is that they're enjoying and why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two things that I think instantly resonated with me when I first met you is that I believe I was wearing the chef's jacket or whatever, but I also had a Scorpion
Yeah.
pendant on, and I noticed that you were
Yeah.
wearing yours that day. I was like, oh, I'm going to like this guy.
I know. Yeah, it was actually fortuitous that I had that. This just happens to be like one of my favorite brooches. People always ask if I'm a Scorpio, not a Libra. But I bought it off of an old lady. Like not on the street, like
Yeah.
not an old lady that was, I was like, ma'am, stop. I
Yeah.
need that. But would go to a lot of estate sales and things like that, and just really try to look for stuff that's vintage. That's kind of part of the thing that I like telling people about too. Like, go out of your way, man. Find something that has a story already.
Yeah.
And inevitably it ends up being probably one of the most popular things that I wear.
I think that aligns perfectly with your mantra of fewer things, better things. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you combat this all the time as like the fast fashion epidemic. So the fact that you can, I guess, upcycle or recycle something that has history and is meaningful to you, I think is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a lot to say about fast fashion, but like really my biggest thing like that I want to do is teach people to be better consumers.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know what we don't know. So a lot of guys don't grow up with like fashionable dad that's like teaching them all these things. I certainly didn't. So you don't know what you don't know. It's not until you get to a phase in life where a certain door opens up, or you're forced to sort of learn how to present yourself in a new room that you want to be in, that you start to learn some of the rules of that game, and you start to learn to buy better and fewer things. But in the meantime, people just got to buy what they can buy. But there's better ways to buy, even if you don't want to spend a lot too.
Sure. Yeah. The education piece, I think, is so critical. Thinking back on my journey growing up as a young man, I was lucky to go to not only business school, but be part of a business fraternity that fostered kind of that education of, all right, this is how you present yourself in a boardroom or a sales
Mhm.
meeting or in front of a client. So we had some training there. And then thinking back, also part of the military, um, I'd almost venture to say that the military breeds a little narcissism because of how anal they are on looks,
Mhm.
only because of the fact that it creates discipline in a soldier. So,
Sure.
like thinking back on me and my soldiers, we're measuring to like the eighth of an inch gap in between our ribbon racks and our awards, and picking the finest hairs and threads out of our uniform, because if anything was out of place, it was just the wrong answer. So luckily for me, I had a little bit of training in like executing things that might fit properly or whatever, but I'm still a novice on like growing into who I want to be in this phase of my life. So I'd love to dive into your thoughts on like educating young males, and like what are some of the basics that we can learn to just feel better in what we wear?
We can get into those. I'm curious, in the military or even when you're in business school, what's some of the things that come to mind for you that have really stuck with you? Like, even if it felt like there was a nuance and sort of an OCD level of like pickiness that was happening, but I'm sure there's some parallels with that you've been able to sort of apply in life too. I'm just while we're there, I'm
Yeah.
just curious, like, what are some of the things that have stuck with you that have actually been really helpful?
If we're thinking about just like rules of dress, one thing I remember in the military is that they would teach us to align um, I guess the edge of the shirt where the buttons line it up with the belt buckle, and then have that lined up with the fly of your pants. So that was one continuous
Yeah,
line from bottom to top, which I thought was a little bit anal, but
it most certainly is.
yeah,
Yeah, I can
I don't
assure
know if
you that
that's
that it is. But well, it's funny because those things though, and then I think that's one of the beautiful things is it doesn't matter how you learn about the rules.
mhm,
The rules are there as a framework, and I think that's kind of mostly like what I try to teach people when they get in front of me too. It's not that you can't break the rules. It's not that you can't tell your story. In fact, I want you to kind of push the envelope a little bit. I want you to sort of test the water and try to figure out what's yours. How do we tell your story and make it feel authentic? But until you know the rules, until you know why things are the way that they are, then you can't understand the game. And you can't play the game if you don't understand how it's played. So
right.
I think those things are foundationally giving you like sort of the framework. Like you kind of understood like if I wanted to be perfect, it could
Mhm.
look like this. But once you get past that, you start to learn how you can bend the rules a little bit and kind of make it your own.
Yeah, thinking back to like business school too, I feel that the rules have changed in the last 5 to 10 years, especially post COVID with the hybrid work environment and stuff. But I mean, before COVID, it was very much, wingtip shoes,
Mm,
slacks, dress shirt, tie, jacket if you're going to the office. And now you see all these tech CEOs wearing a t-shirt underneath a jacket with some sneakers and a suit.
hmm
And it's like, all right, well, I mean, if the richest guys and the top guys of the company are portraying this comfortable, casual, professional look, is that the new standard, or is that just a phase, or like
Yeah,
what's
it's interesting. So there are segments of trends that not, and when I say trend, I don't say trend in the true fashion sort of sense, right? Like when we look at like what's GQ talking about or what's
yeah,
Vogue talking about, those things matter less. I think good style is having an understanding of what works. I think it's understanding yourself and what matters to you and understanding how you want to present yourself. What do you want to say when you walk into a room without saying anything? Because
sure,
whatever you're wearing is going to speak volumes about you. But going back to trends, you can have like the tech bro trend of having like a dress shirt in the like billionaire vest on, a little puff vest, but you could dress like that if that's what you want to be in the room, but at some point you're also blending in.
hmm,
So I think understanding the room that you're going into, having a context of who's going to be there, how do they behave, how do they interact, but then I think if you can find ways to kind of elevate yourself there. Like one of the things that I love to do or that I've kind of recognized about myself is that I don't actually wear a suit all that often. Like when I do wear it, it's because I just want to like make moves. I want to like
sure,
feel special. It's that coat of armor that I want to wear that like makes me feel next level. And when we talk about my story and how I got here, you'll kind of see why that's a suit of armor for me and how I used it as a tool. But I think redefining your style and thinking about the things that like you really really like I love when a pant is like perfectly cut. Like
hmm,
it's so next level, it's so chic, it stretches the body out, it just makes everyone look amazing if it's cut right. But like I was spending a lot of time in LA with clients out there, and LA is a different sort of vibe, it's a different animal,
yeah,
it's a different room that I had to be in, right? And so I couldn't just be in a suit all the time. It would not necessarily, I'm not reading the room,
right,
right? But I also didn't want to be in joggers like everyone else was. Like this was during a period of like athleisure and streetwear was heavy. And I have nothing against that, but at the same time, like it's a little lazy. And so what I did for my own style was like I would take just a beautifully cut trouser, more high waist, so a little bit of a nod to like old school Hollywood.
sure,
But then I would have a beautiful t-shirt, like a silk jersey t-shirt or a cashmere tee, fitted well, tucked in, because I understand proportion and silhouettes.
yeah,
But I would go around and I would get endless compliments, not only from people of both sexes, but then just even like homies who were just like in streetwear, they're like, damn, bro, like you look fresh right now. And like what I like about that is I like trying to help somebody dress or have myself dress so that I'm like that guy in the
Yeah.
room. I'm the best dressed guy in the room, but you don't necessarily know why.
Hmm.
And it's not because I have a giant fucking Versace thing on or like big branding or anything like that. There's
Right.
just something more to it, but it's hard to put your thumb on. And I think if you can be that guy, that is a really good space to be in.
I've seen a lot of your outfits that you're wearing to other occasions, and it's very inspiring because I am not a person that can like just think of like an outfit to wear. Like I need inspiration.
Mm,
When I see it look good on somebody else, I'm like, that's what I want. I like that style,
yeah.
or I know that I don't like that. So I'm wondering how many other men out there are having a tough time of just like, I would love to look better. I just don't know what would look good on me.
I think probably a lot because in a lot of people aren't, man, there's a lot to unpack there, a lot to unpack, because just even as men, even just getting into masculinity and,
Hmm.
and trying to redefine like what that even means to us these days. There's so many of us grew up in an era or in generations where we just got some really toxic ideas what it means to be a man, some of which are growing up in areas or in families where it's like, don't care about your looks, get the work done,
Right.
which there's a quality in that, in being able to be persistent and to persevere through challenges and to work really hard. But this idea that like you shouldn't take care of yourself or looks don't matter, what you wear doesn't matter, bullshit. It matters so much, and my life kind of proves that, everything that I've been able to do. So I think first of all, like I want to just like break that down for people. Like, don't be afraid to really start to explore yourself, to just try new things. But
Yeah.
like when you're starting to learn about fashion, don't read a GQ and try to do every single trend that you see that's on there. Like, first of all, don't ever buy Balenciaga shoes. Those things are trash. They look so stupid. Don't buy those. But what I mean is like, don't try all these trends at once. Like pick one thing that you think is kind of cool or that resonates with you. Or better yet, don't look at what trends are happening right now. Look back in old films. You think of your life and your look as a movie.
Hmm.
What character do you want to be? And pull inspiration from those films, from those moments in time or in cinema that you just think feel timeless. If you watch a movie from the 70s or from the 60s and you're looking at Paul Newman, James Dean or something, you're like, dude, that guy looks fresh. Like he
Yeah.
looks good. I promise you that still looks good now. There's a reason that when you look at that, it still looks good. And oftentimes it is the simplest things and it's just good fit
Yeah.
that actually really works. So it's a journey to figure out your own style, but start with simple stuff, and fit rules everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you brought up that, you got to imagine that you're in your own movie, right? And I
Hmm.
think it was either on Ren's episode a couple recordings back, but or maybe it was with Tony. We talked about how us humans are wearing different costumes throughout our lives for different
Mm.
events that we attend, and I feel like that people are afraid to embrace being the main character, so to speak, because
Mm.
we have a lot of main character syndrome out there with like influencers and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you can't be the star of your own movie, because we only get one shot at this life, and you might as well look good doing it.
Yeah. Gosh, that's funny. That's so true. There is a lot of main character energy from a lot of folks, like deserve it or not. The funny thing is like sometimes people that are acting like main character, like, nobody's watching your movie, bro. Settle down. Like, but for yourself, I think it's worth exploring that. Like, in fact, I like the idea of thinking yourself as a main character. And some people might want to act like they don't want to, but like we really do.
Hmm.
Like we really do want to be the main character. Something deep down us in us wants to. Or, Ren and I will joke all the time, like we like the villains.
Yeah.
Um, but maybe it's a reframe that has to happen of the way that people are thinking about it, because some people are afraid of the attention, the wrong kind of attention, or feeling like they're putting themselves out there too much, or they just don't want to feel fake. They don't want to feel forced. And that can be challenging. I think a good reframe is just, how do you want to feel?
Yeah.
You know?
I'm glad you touched on that, because,
Yeah.
we have people out there that are self-proclaimed introverts or shy, or maybe they really don't care about trends or whatever. But to your point, I think the way you dress is a way to tell yourself how you value yourself.
Mm.
So if you're dressing well, things that fit well, you feel good in it, you're showing yourself that, yeah, I deserve to feel good in my day-to-day life, even whether it's a nice pair of sweatpants floating around the house in a t-shirt, or you're
Yeah.
going out in a three-piece suit. What you put on your body is a reflection of your self-worth. And I feel like a lot of us haven't given ourselves a chance to be worthy of what
Yeah.
we actually are.
I think that's so true. And everything matters. I think that's why just living with intention is such an important thing. And it doesn't matter like what it takes or where you start within your life to kind of figure out what intention looks like for you. It can be the way that you dress. It could be the way that you get ready or the way that you take care of yourself. It's doing a little bit with skincare. It's where you get your haircuts, it's everything. It's how you walk into a room. It's paying attention to how you speak and asking yourself, am I filling silences with filler words? Am I scared of silence? Or am I somebody who's okay with silence? I think that if you can practice restraint in your life, then you can be a pretty powerful, dangerous person.
I would definitely agree with that.
That's the other part of what I think that's another part of it for people too, is when people want to be like the main character, like that idea, like we want to feel important.
Sure.
We want to hear people want to say our name. It's the most important word in the language, or in any language, is our own name. But we don't need a lot of attention. We don't have to be boisterous. We don't have to be out there. We don't have to be loud. The loudest guy in the room is never the most powerful. He's never the most cool either. The guy that knows how to use restraint to his advantage, who knows how to control silence, the guy that gives less actually ends up being the more desirable one, the one that we want their attention more. So if you're an introvert, you can actually use that to your advantage if you can just reframe how you think about yourself and how you want to feel in that room.
Sure. I'm thinking back to a lot of the memes and stuff lately about like men's mental health and how men will attach memories to like the one compliment they got 15 years ago from
Of course, yeah.
like a friend, because men don't seem to get compliments as much as females in at least Western society. So let's get a movement going where even if it's just a well-cut t-shirt and some jeans or whatever, like let's get men compliments out there. I think you're fighting that fight every day with your fashion, but I think we need to make it a movement.
Yeah, and start by giving other people compliments, everybody. I think go out of your way to kind of practice that. I think it's a fantastic practice, because if you're going to do it genuinely, it means you have to pay attention more.
Sure.
I think you have to slow down. You have to not rush to answer people with whatever the hell is going on in your chaotic head. Like, you have to actually stop and listen. But you also have to look at people and really absorb them and be present in a moment. And you have to realize what is it that you really appreciate about this person. And that you can have some really genuine, beautiful compliments come from that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, for the viewers and listeners out there, go compliment your homies.
Yeah.
Let's start the movement. Let's get some confidence.
Look to the person at your left and give them a compliment.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, gosh, we're going to need another episode. I can already tell you, but let's dive into kind of the backstory of like, what were you doing before you became a designer? And then we can get into like how you switched into finding your true self.
Yeah. Well, the answer is that I was an idiot.
Okay.
Oh, dude, I was.
We were all young and dumb at one point.
Truly, isn't that the truth? No, I don't want to say that I was a punk kid, but like I had a phase of life where I really, to me, like I felt like a punk kid. I really felt like everything was going wrong. I grew up in a little farm town in Michigan. Literally, I mean, population of the town still to this day, I think only says is like 1,200 or something.
Oh,
like
wow.
that. It's like really small. Like there was a day of the year that kids would drive their tractors to school. It was a real thing. Snowmobiles, shit like that.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a small town, so not the kind of place where fashion is what you do. Certainly wasn't on the menu for like what you'd want to do. Like for me, funny enough, even though it was a small town, I grew up in the era of like TRL, music videos,
Yep.
Usher, Omarion. And because of that, I was in a dance crew. So I was a dancer
I
growing
didn't know
up,
you danced.
actually.
That's
No, yeah,
awesome.
we had a little 4-person crew, and we would go battle kids in like other towns.
Dude, that's dope.
So it was a very like unknown sort of fun fact about me. I'm largely retired from dancing. I think I peaked too early, because if it would have been in the TikTok era,
Oh,
I
man.
would have been like Moose from from Step Up. But nevertheless, fashion meant something different to me at the time. It had to do with storytelling. So when you're growing up a dancer, like you just want to, the look matters, you know, the clothing matters, the silhouette matters a ton. Like whatever Nelly was wearing, like Bocal sweats, had them guaranteed, and it made my moves look better. So I understood how to make clothing work for me. But growing up in a town like that, you know, there just wasn't much to do other than like sports for me, dance, and like chase girls. You know, like those were my interests. I was a smart kid, not very good with grades, had a terrible GPA, but I had high test scores. So like one of those kids who was just like, I can't really be bothered with this. But because I'm an idiot and I didn't really understand the system, I was brought up by brilliant parents. My dad has since passed. My mom's still with me, but really, really loving parents that like really, I think, made a man out of me, made a good man out of me and a good kid. So I was a good kid, but I just didn't get it. Like it's a farm town, you know? So when I graduated, I had like, I don't know, like a 2.3 or a 2.5 or something like that. But again, like these high test scores, and I'm like, like I'll just apply to college and it's gonna be fine. Like in my head, I'm not risk averse at all. Like I'm totally fine with risking it all the time. And to me, it will all just work out. And so I'm manifesting. So my first attempt at manifesting out of school, or as I was finishing school, was I applied to like University of Michigan.
Okay.
One of the hardest schools. And then because I thought it was cool, I applied to like Pepperdine as well.
Really?
And I'm not a like religious person. I didn't grow up like that and all, but it was like in Malibu, and I'm just like, sick. The campus looks dope. And they're all like, bro, I said, no, dude, like you can't come here. And I was like, okay, cool, got it. And so I went to a local community college, and I think I stayed for like 3 classes. I was there long enough to get the books and pay for those, which is fantastic. But then by that point, I'm like, this shit is for the birds, dude. Yeah, like I'm over it. And so I drop out. And the next step for me is to just try to go kill it. Because in my head, I'm like, I can figure it out. Like I always have. I feel really confident. Like I don't want to say I knew what I wanted, but I just knew that I wanted success. Yeah. And I thought that I could find that. But I really hadn't had some real challenges yet in life. Not really. And so I fell on my face so many times. I had like 14 jobs in like 2.5 years. I was the worst employee ever. Like
this is a classic up and coming entrepreneur story. I can feel it.
Yeah, I guess. Or also just like an idiot. Like, you know, I'm like not really a good employee. I hated listening to people. I didn't like the authority. I didn't like the schedules that they would set for me. Like I remember I got a job at Best Buy, and they're like, I think you're going to be great here, man. And I was like, cool, like what's up? And they're like, first day's training, so go through the training, normal hours, fine, no problem. End of the day, guy comes up to me, the shift manager, he's like, all right, Josh, tomorrow is when the new games and the movies come in, so we come in around 3 a.m., we get those unloaded.
Good
and
Lord.
I'm like, we'll see you. And I didn't even stay long enough to get the blue shirt. I'm like, fuck. And so like that was a lot of my sort of early adult life when I was like 18, like as I had just graduated high school, but then dropped out of college, is that I was just like, I couldn't keep it together. And I was like fucking off a little bit, got in trouble, like even went to jail before, like just had some scary close calls where it's just all of a sudden like, wait, like my parents raised a good kid. Like I'm a good dude. Like what's going on? And I finally, maybe like 2 years out of high school, I was like, this is not good. Yeah. Like something's got to give. So I'll date myself. I was looking for a job in the paper.
Okay.
And so I'm going through the paper, and I see a job ad for a Lexus dealership. And Lexus dealership is hiring. You don't have to have a degree or anything like that. And I'm like, all right, let's go. It's the biggest dealer in the state. I show up. It's beautiful. Nice place.
Luxury cars is probably, you're probably thinking like this is aligning towards what I want, like just more money. And
I don't think I knew. I think what I knew is that something had to change. I needed a job. And so I go. Beautiful. I walk in. Again, I don't really understand the game yet. So like, I don't understand how the systems work. I look like an idiot. At the time, my partner and I, had gone to Mexico for my first time, and I had bleached my hair blonde. My hair's very curly. Even right now, this is me making it a little straighter. You've seen it. It's very curly. At the time, it was pretty big. Like I basically have like a fro, like when I grow it out. And we had bleached it blonde. It was not cute. It was not like a good blonde. It was like a Draco Malfoy kind of blonde. So it
So
was
we're
like a
not
really
going to
yellow.
pull up a picture of this on the screen later for the audience, or
I'll
no?
try to find one for
Okay.
you. Yeah. But I go in, and so I have this wild hair. I have whatever clothes that I had from like travel basketball games because I would hoop. That was like my main sport. So
You're like,
I
dude.
I look like a 2004 NBA draft, like like just long, big, baggy stuff.
Yeah.
And so I go in, and this guy interviews me, who's still a friend to this day. His name was Joe. He was a sales manager, and he's talking to me, and he's like, "I like you, man." He's like, "You look like shit, though." And I was like,
Damn.
"All right, what do I do?" Because like I'm here to learn. I'm curious. Like,
Sure.
what do I do? He's like, "I don't know, bro." He's like, "You got to get cleaned up. Do something with that. Come back here. We'll talk.
Just do anything.
Do something with that." And so, what do? I run to the mall, and I couldn't do anything but basically like buzz my hair because it was crazy. So like I get like effectively a buzz cut, super short, and I go to like Express. The salespeople there were wearing like more fitted clothes, and I'm like, all right, I have like $20 to my name or whatever the hell I had, and so I get some clothes, I put them on, I go right back to it, and I walk into this biggest dealership in the state, and I remember seeing Joe with two other guys in a meeting in a glass office that was over there, doors closed. That means nothing to me because I grew up in a farm town and I dropped out of college. No one taught me what a closed door meeting was.
Yeah.
I walked past the receptionist, and I remember walking in and having her be like, "Can I help you?" And I'm like,
No, I'm good. I got this.
waved her off. And I go to the door, and I just open it.
Wow.
And I push it open, and I stick my head in, and I just knock in, like, as it's open, and I just say, "Hey, Joe, just want to know, how's this?" And these guys move cinematically slow, turning around, being like, "Who the fuck is this walking in here?" And Joe just looks at me, and he's like, "We'll see you Monday." So I get the job.
Nice.
But the reason that story was important, not only does it, again, speak to sort of my early ability to just like take a risk and like not knowing any better was a superpower for me.
Sure.
But I did that. But the reason that it was important is because the other guys in the office at the time that was with him, one was David. He was the general manager for the whole dealer group.
Mhm.
And then there was Rosario, who was the older Italian gentleman that owned everything. He owned the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And he was notorious for being pretty grumpy. And all the salespeople didn't like him, and he didn't like the salespeople. However, on that day, apparently what he had said was, "Who's the kid with the balls?" And he decided
Sounds like an old Italian man thing to say.
for sure. And he decided that he liked me. And that was important because those guys decided they were going to take care of me. And by take care of me, I don't mean like feed me sales and stuff like that. They saw like potential
Sure.
in me. They saw my ability to just not care about rejection, to take a risk, to just like go in there. And they started teaching me things that I didn't grow up with. They started teaching me what listening really looks like, what empathy looks like, what it means to like be in the room, like how you interact and communicate with somebody that has like a little bit of dough. And then also what they made me do was get dressed up. So they made me take my first 2 checks and save it and get a suit from their guy that would go make them suits.
Nice.
And that was a fun experience for me, because all of a sudden I'm in this suit, and here's me, still an idiot punk kid who had gone to jail and got in trouble and who didn't have anything figured out in life.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I was in the room. I was in the room that I had been thinking about that I needed to be in, and I was talking with people that were writing checks for Lexus. Like,
Wild.
and they're listening to me. But the only thing that had changed about me was the way that I looked. It was the clothing. And so I realized in that moment that clothing was an incredibly powerful tool that was maybe going to be the vehicle that would allow me to be in those rooms. And I had no idea where that would take me. But to make a long story incredibly long, I bit down on that on the consumer side. I started investing into tailoring and just like really exploring what that look was going to look like for me. That fed into being like, well, what are the rules of this? And then I'm getting books and I'm researching, and then I'm like, well, how's this stuff made? And it just became this thing, and it was a snowball effect that kept going and going and going. And I stayed in that career for a few years. I did real estate flips for a couple of years after that. And then I saved up, now that I think about it, a tiny bit of money and moved to Chicago at the end of 2011 and started a company.
Wow.
Because I was like, this is either going to be a thing or it's not. And I
Yeah.
learned enough to where I could be just barely dangerous,
Yeah.
and started a company. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. And then lived in a basement for the first year and a half, like not a basement apartment, but the folks, when I first came and we started a different company than Kercher, but we started a custom clothing company together. I talked them into letting me live in the basement of their salon.
Wow.
And so concrete floors, no windows, not fun, but also at the same time, the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
That story is very inspiring because you can literally say that a good outfit opens doors for you physically and professionally.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's quite the come up. And would you say that you were like obsessed with learning about fashion, or is just like, what was it that was just driving you to like learn more and more about it?
I don't think that it was the fashion. I think that what it was how it was a tool.
Mm-hmm.
I think seeing the progress of where it was taking me, I think wanting to like really understand like what was possible there. I think I enjoyed it too, because like the really beautiful byproduct of dressing well is that like people treat you really nicely and like they treat you with more respect. You start to respect yourself more. I think you should anyways. It's easy to become, there's a lot of guys that dress really well that are like disgusting narcissists,
Yeah.
and like terribly toxic. But I think when you dress well, like things just start to change. And so it's just like, it's a cool process to go through to kind of see how the world starts to interact with you differently when you start to play around with that.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation because there are these unwritten rules in this world that we live in, whether people like it or not. It is the way that it is. And when you
Yeah.
say people treat you differently when you dress nicely, it is 100% a fact. We can dive into like first impressions and stuff. I mean, when I walk outside of my house, I try and imagine that today might be the day that I meet my future wife. So
Yeah,
what
man.
do I want to present to this person that I might or might not even meet? So trying to have that mentality of like at least being put together and not disheveled is like the basics.
Yeah, listen, and like, I mean, like, like that comment right there, like if there's anything that can get through to a guy about like, why is it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Usually it might be that. It's
Yeah.
just like, if you're trying to attract the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like something needs to be telling your story before you open your mouth. Cause a lot of us, when we open our mouth, like we're not smart. We say the wrong things because we're nervous. We try to fill spaces. Like we feel awkward, whatever. All right. Don't do that. Stop talking, bro. Like put on a good outfit. It'll do a lot of the work for you. I promise. And like slow down with what you do. Like there's so much around seduction, desire, like that sort of thing that can come from the way that you dress, the way that you act. And a lot of it has to do with just slowing down and being intentional. Like I promise you, I don't know what this podcast is rated, but like I promise you that like if you're dressed really well, if you look like you take care of yourself, it's gonna look like you can take care of her, you
Yeah.
know? And if you slow down and you're someone who likes to jam your meals down your throat really fast versus the guy that wants to take their time and like they look like they savor and enjoy every moment and they really know how to taste, she's gonna be like, he looks like he knows how to taste. So, you just slow down, take care of yourself, like pay attention to what you're doing and it'll do some good stuff for you.
Absolutely. To that effect, slowing down, being intentional. During your career, you mentioned that you started something before Kercher, but did you have to slow down your fashion trajectory and think about like what's the future look like? And did that help you decide that you wanted to turn your actual name into like a luxury brand?
I didn't take so much of a normal path there. Again, I have to point to the fact that I just didn't know any better.
Mhm.
I had no clue what I was doing. Like I was literally just tripping through this whole thing. And the biggest thing that I do have is extreme curiosity. So every single day I'm learning something new
Sure.
about this whole deal, like life, business, fashion, whatever. So I didn't actually have much of a moment where I stepped back and was just like, what do I like really need this to be and map it out, like business plan. I'm embarrassed to say, but like I didn't have those things. What
Yeah.
I knew was that I wanted to keep giving people that same moment that I had with clothing. And I recognized that I had gotten to a position where I could give people that, like when we made your suit, like it's such a moment. It was
Yeah.
literally a Superman moment, but like it's such a moment when you get something that is made so perfectly for you and it so speaks to your own nuance and your own desires, and it's just it's fucking cool.
I
So like
think
that's what was driving me.
that's such a great North Star to want to give other people the same experience you had.
Mm,
I don't think that ever goes away. That doesn't dissipate. Like that's in you.
yeah.
That's the burning desire that you had at a very formidable time in your growth as a young man, that like that fire cannot be extinguished. And
No.
for the viewers, stick around to the end of the episode. We're going to throw up some bonus footage of my Kercher suit, some backstory on that. Last year, I had decided to be Clark Kent / Superman for Halloween. And
Yeah.
I approached Josh. He was the first one I thought of. I said, here's a picture of a suit that Henry Cavill's wearing. Do you think you could replicate this just off of the photo? And he looks at it and he goes, oh, yeah, I can tell what kind of fabric that is. Yeah, we can do that cut. Yeah, let's set up an appointment and get you measured. And I was just like, oh, okay. So
Yeah,
this
I was
guy,
like, that's light work, homie. Let's go. Yeah.
I'm going to look like Henry Cavill at the end of this. So just from A to Z, the process,
Yeah.
sitting with you, and I got to learn about fashion. I got to feel good in a suit. We had fun doing it. And you gave me permission to be creative and fun with the process too. I wasn't going to Men's Warehouse, no offense, just pulling something off the rack and them just hemming the pants a little bit. It was like, well, like, what do you carry every day? Like, do you need this pocket? Do you want this pocket? Do you want to add something creative? Like, let's put a little of you into this item of clothing that is strictly you. It's not anybody else's suit except Thomas Neifel. And I can't say enough good things about the experience because it made me feel something. And when I put on that jacket, I truly felt like a Superman.
Yeah. I love that.
So I hope more people can come visit you just to get that experience, because it was worth every penny.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I recognize that like what we do is a big investment. I mean, it's absolutely a luxury. Like nobody comes to me because I'm solving a problem. Like they're not having any problems at all. Actually, like they're celebrating life. There's a good moment that's happening, and I'm blessed to feel like that's the position I'm in. But I know not everybody can do that. But what everybody can do is start to learn about fit. For guys that are like aspiring to want to like check some stuff out, get books like Dressing the Man. It's a great book that someone could check out. And it just goes into like the really timeless, like classic rules of like proper dress. And it's interesting. And part of it, some of it feels kind of dated, but at the same time, like if you were to literally do everything in there, no one's going to tell you look bad. Like you look like a boss.
As long as you're not wearing like one of those fat like 90s business ties.
That's right. Yeah.
I can't stand those.
With piano keys on them. No, man, I think it's fun to learn the rules and then figure out how you want to break them.
Yeah. So you've been doing this for a couple of years now. You've rubbed elbows with some really interesting cats, and not necessarily everyone has to be a celebrity or famous, but I'm sure you've met some neat folks in your industry. Have you had, or I guess what's the most memorable celebrity or suit that you've made for somebody in the last couple of years?
Well, they're not always one and the same. For example, one of the early sort of, I suppose you could say like sort of a celebrity encounter. I think of him as a celebrity, he's a friend, but a really, really long time ago, my friend Lewis Howes, he's a big podcaster as well, but Lewis had really been in the early stages of his journey. Like his podcast had just been out maybe only a year or so at the time, but he was working on a book, and a friend of mine had introduced him to me, and he was going to stop by to see me and to connect. And it was great. So we did this whole thing when he was on his like first book tour, but we became buddies. And now 10 years later, I've known him for a long time. He's gone through multiple relationships, and he was someone that I really appreciate about Lewis is that he's someone who's just a really beautiful human, and he really deserved love, like good love. And he eventually found it in such a beautiful way. Like this woman is perfect for him, and they just got married. And that was a really fun suit to do because I was just thinking about like the 10 years of knowing him and coming together and then
Yeah.
creating this special moment for him, but then also having someone who's so big, who has access to basically anything he wants to, could pay for anything he wants to, but wants to like see me and trust me in that moment to kind of make him feel special. So weddings always feel special to me.
For sure.
And Lewis is, to me, is a really cool celebrity because he kind of represents the best of what celebrity could be. Like, he'll talk to anyone. He's incredibly humble. He wants to be of service to everyone. And those are the kind of people that I want to be around. But the most memorable, actually, one of the more touching ones that I've ever done was a family had brought in their dad. Like a few people were getting stuff. I think it was like for a wedding, but the dad wanted to get something, and he had some sort of illness that like really kind of perched him over quite a bit. Like his posture was royally fucked. It was not great. He's moving around mobile, but this is someone who looks like he had kind of forgotten about taking care of himself, maybe because he was in service to his family,
Sure.
and he wasn't really doing anything for himself because that's just like what a good father does sometimes. But they really wanted to treat him, to get him a suit. And I just took my time with him, getting to know him, like asking him to tell me stories.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful process, not only getting to know this gentleman, but to really learn that he had not taken any time for himself like this, or he hadn't really done anything like in his whole like 70 years or whatever it was. He had never had anything like that.
Yeah.
But the moment when we made something that like was actually cut for him, and he looked good, bro. Like he looked really good. It's like the family is like got a little bit of a tear, because he looked so good. But the way that he looked at himself in the mirror,
You could see that glimmer in his eye, like
it was as if he wasn't looking at himself for who he was or who he had been. It was like he was seeing himself new again.
Wow.
And that just felt really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And so like, that's crazy to like give somebody that moment, or to even play a tiny part in something like that. But like those kinds of things feel really special and they stay with me.
Yeah, we've had a few conversations on the pod about people leaving corporate and following their passions and being able to do a line of work where you can affect people in a positive way, whether it's getting them in their dream home or building their dream ring. And I think fashion is certainly one of those areas where you might not understand it before you get the suit made, but when you go through the process and you're just like, wow, this is a lot more emotional than I would have thought going into it. But I mean, you get to see people at the best times in their lives with weddings, and also I'm sure some of the worst times, maybe for a funeral or whatnot. But I mean, I think a lot of it's just so connected and intimate, that experience you have by building these custom pieces for folks, that it's just so special.
It is, yeah. And it's so it becomes way more than just clothing, right? Like you are walking them through a part of their life, like a next season chapter, whatever it is that happens to be going on. But yeah, it's always something cool though. Like it's usually something that's like pretty cool. But like, like our UFC guys, like working with some of our UFC fighters, like when we do stuff for them, like you'll take a guy who maybe hadn't really dressed like that before, but then you put him in this thing and you can literally watch it on TV. You see him do the walk-in and he's walking like the shit is going down at night. And it's fun because it's like, yo, I'm there with you, bro. Like we did that, and it's just really fucking fun, man.
Yeah.
I feel really blessed to have an opportunity to do that with people.
Well, this is a Chicago podcast, so I'm curious if you have any like Chicago fashion trends that you love or hate, or maybe hot takes on what us Chicago guys can do better.
I think there's not really an identifiable style in Chicago. I have some friends, I'd say in the music industry of things, that might like disagree with that, but largely I think that there's not. And so my advice, the thing that I like about Chicago is not a particular trend, but I think it's how we're brought up. So if we think about like Midwestern approachability, I think you can find ways to work that into your clothing. I think finding ways to dress up, but leave something sort of not missing, but it's a matter of there's a craft to keeping the approachability that we have as Midwesterners,
Sure.
to keeping that sort of just friendliness in the way that we approach people. But I think that can extend into the way that you dress too, and that could be part of your style. For me, like working in this world of having everything from like billionaires to political figures to rappers and like everything in between, being able to just tell good stories and be approachable is the common thread that like allows me to connect with every single one of those people. But like that would be the Midwestern trend that I would want people to like take advantage of, is like, remember where you came from, stay humble, learn to be patient, listen well, tell good stories. Like everything's gonna fucking work out for you.
Yeah. Something I just picked up on. I don't know if you know this, so if you don't have an answer, that's fine. But you mentioned the term common thread. Is that a fashion term, or is that just something we've come to say that could be a pun for fashion?
I don't know.
Like there's not like
know.
there's not like a
see
thread in fashion that's like, this is the common thread.
I don't think so. No, I could. I see. I could see the how it could be, but I have no idea.
Okay, fair enough.
Good question.
What I like to do towards the end of the episode with the clients, I like talking about culinary experiences, because Chicago's so diverse with the different chefs and restaurants and bars that we have. So maybe you can give the viewers and listeners some insight into like where you like to eat around the city and where you're kind of frequenting when you're doing some social stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm referring people to restaurants constantly. So probably the number one place that I refer people to, shout out my friend Chef Curtis Duffy, ever, when people want to have like a really next level experience, or shout out Chef Shields downstairs below my space is Smith. So 3-star Michelin or 2-star Michelin, take your pick, bring your pocketbook. Those are brilliant. I love those. I think if you want to celebrate something and really have a moment in life, dress up, go to those. But I like, I'll name off a couple things if that's okay.
Yeah.
Curtis's other place, his cocktail lounge that's right next to it, is called After. It's largely unmarked. You can go there. It is one of the sexiest like date spots that you can go. It's incredibly elevated. But it's like elevated, but a neighborhood bar. Like people remember your name. Like they really go out of their way to make you feel friendly. So it feels special to be in there, but it also feels like it's okay to be in there a lot, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I like dusty neighborhood places too. I think Aberdeen Tap, shout out those guys on Hubbard, is just like, it's like the perfect level of dust. I like it. My girl, Carmen and I, we go in there and we just drink like way too many IPAs and heavy caloric beers.
Yes.
And I also really, really love Viaggio. Viaggio's on Madison, across from Monteverde, and Dave that owns that. Shout out Dave. Like he's just the best human ever.
Yeah.
And every single dish that they have is brilliant. So go there.
I think as Midwesterners, we have that great balance of being able to dress up and be fancy and go to the Michelin star places, but you go back to your roots and love a good dive bar or just like a standard burger and beer place or a taco joint or whatever. It really gives you a lot of options to enjoy life, I feel like, because we weren't really raised in a society where it's like, if I grew up in New York City downtown, like I'd probably have a different perspective. But since we have so many different cultures and stuff, I feel blessed that I get to experience all different facets of life, whether it's food or beverages or art or music or what have you. I'm a big Chicago fan.
Yeah, dude. I think Chicago's a brilliant city. Like I could have now probably gone wherever. Like any of the big cities would probably make a lot of sense. Maybe even make more sense for me. Like if I was doing it only if it was a financial driver to do it. But like why?
Yeah.
Like Chicago is a central hub. I can get to all these places. It's brilliant. The people are brilliant. The food and beverage, like you said, that we have is brilliant. And there's really a lot of opportunities here too. Like anyone that says that they want to go to a bigger city for like more opportunities, I think you're kind of missing what is really here. Like this is a perfect place to be a big fish in a small pond. Like it is much easier to make your name in a city like this than it is to go to New York where you might get swallowed up.
Absolutely. And I touched on this with Tony, I think on the first episode, but Chicago is a place where people are usually accessible, whether it's through a personal connection or just shooting a DM or an email to somebody. People are more open to that. So one of the questions I always ask the guests on my show is, who do you think would make a great next guest on the Scorpion Nest podcast?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think that so any number of culinary guys could be really fun. I think Curtis has a book. Chef Duffy's got a book coming out. He could be like a memoir. Like, he could be a great person to have a conversation with. Chef Jonathan Sawyer, he's got a book out about, like, he's got like recipes and stuff, but like, he's just a character. He's on like a lot of the shows with Guy Fieri and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would love to see one of the food guys. I think being able to not only talk about food with them, but to talk about like their intention to life and the parallels that they can draw from like how they approach their craft and how that sort of resonates and spreads out into the rest of their world, and what they could maybe teach us about our own life too.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think Chef Curtis Duffy's book is on pre-order right now. Is that right?
It is, yeah.
And then I want to say it comes out in August.
It's July or August, something
July
like
or
that.
August,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
definitely picking up my copy. If you haven't ordered yet, absolutely pick up his copy. And, you know, maybe if we tag him enough and Josh gives him a little nudge, we'll get him on the show later this year.
That's right. Fun story about Curtis, I'll throw in there really quick. So he was the first big chef that I had like made a proper bespoke suit for. And he didn't ask for much other than like, he just likes black, all black. And he's tatted up. He paints his nails too. Like,
Yeah.
he's the homie. He's great. But he just wanted something simple. So I couldn't do anything that was like crazy or out there on the outside. So on the inside, which was all still just black, but I wanted to make it feel like it was really for him. And so, you know, for you, we made the cigar pocket.
Yeah.
And for him, what we did is we made a pair of custom plating tweezers, like with his restaurant logo and like his signature on it. And then I made the tiniest little pocket inside of his suit, because he was going to wear it. You know, he cooks, obviously. He kind of develops menus, does all those things, but he spends a lot of time kissing babies and shaking hands because, like, he's the man now.
Yeah.
So, like, if he's going to be in that suit or go to events, I just thought still, like, if he has to every once in a while, like, yo, let me fucking plate that right there. Like, so he had the tweezers in there. So that was a fun reveal to be able to give that to him. So if nothing else, even if you come to me and you get a really simple suit, let's do like a crazy pocket or something like that.
Yeah, you got to have fun.
You got to have a crazy pocket.
Well, last question before I let you go. For the listeners and viewers that want to get in touch with you, whether it's for a suit or just hang out and have a good meal, where can they find you?
For sure. Our location is open by appointment or just if you're lucky. But no, it's just my home and my studio is the same place. But going on the website, joshkercher.com, Instagram at Josh Kercher. You can kind of follow along with what we're doing. It's a good mix of what's happening at the company behind the scenes and also just kind of my life and the things that I'm into. But on the website, if anyone wants to subscribe, we launched a new newsletter, which is, you know, my whole life in the making, you know, but 15 years in the industry in the making of not just talking about style tips. It's called Rare Ones, but not just talking about style tips, but like really breaking down what my understanding is about magnetism, seduction, calmness, power, and how do we really cultivate these things and sort of use them. And it's full of not only just practical guidance and tips, but like theory and around like why this shit should matter to you.
I think you have a very broad audience that will be able to not only appreciate that, but crave your knowledge from the past 10 years or so that you've been doing this. So, and
it's free still right now. So I'm going to charge you later, but like get it while it's free, dude.
I love that you release that. I look forward to every episode, but Josh, thanks again for coming on the show. Would love to do another episode. I know you have a ton more stories, but always a great time to hang out with you.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate you.